about being good ambassadors for the
Stakeholders in anti-corruption efforts across the East African region led by Transparency International Uganda have concluded a two-day East African anti-corruption dialogue that discussed and shared ideas on ways to collectively combat the vice. At the meeting, officials of the anti-corruption agencies in government and the private sector across the region said that the fight against corruption and outright theft of public resources is a threat to development. Anti-graft activists noted that only few governments have the political will to fight corruption. They recommend the adoption of measures such as rigorous vetting of civil servants and private sector staff.
Each and every employer or institution advertising for employment at least has to ensure that anybody before appointment they actually seek clearance from Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, get clearance from the Director of Criminal Investigations, get clearance from credit reference bureaus to see just how are you in terms of financial status.
The governments in other East African countries were urged to emulate the strategies the political leadership in Tanzania has adopted to fight corruption.
For instance, when he came into power, the first and the foremost thing was to root out all the ghost employees in the public service. Those who were not deserving to be in the public service were rooted out. They were seriously tracked, and the records were seriously identified, and they were taken out.
Tungamo Municipality MP Jared Karuhanga, who is the Vice Chairman of the Watchdog Parliamentary Public Accounts Committee, said that the committee will soon begin naming and shaming public officers implicated in corruption since the executive has not been effective in acting on the reports and recommendations made by his committee and others engaged in checking corruption.
And so every year Ugandans are going to see who are the most corrupt officials in government and which are the most corrupt institutions. It's an innovation that we've come up with as the Public Accounts Committee, and it's an idea that we think once Ugandans know out there who are these individuals, which are these institutions, then they press more for accountability, they will demand for changes in these ministries.
The Executive Director of Transparency International that convened the meeting called for the adoption of automated systems and citizen witness protection to combat corruption in Uganda.
After a person has whistleblown, after a person has come up with all this information, what happens afterwards? How is it protected? Most people fear to come out, most people fear to report corruption because they have a feeling that after that they shan't be well protected.
The latest Corruption Perception Index compiled annually by Transparency International indicates that in East Africa, Rwanda is the least corrupt country, but in other countries the police and the judiciary are heavily tainted, with the exception of Tanzania to some extent. Suhail Mugabe, NTV, Weekend Edition.